You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, episode 171. Wow, 171 episodes. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul Voldy, Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
It feels like we were just doing this a few days ago.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit not really sure what we're doing here, but nonetheless, here it's Wednesday night, and I know that we've got a lot to talk about, especially with the upcoming Sunday of football as well. Of course, this week, had to break out the 1-5 here, of course,
sir.
for our boy Josh Dobbs and everything. Looking forward to, obviously, another great show.
You know it, and for tonight, Voldy, there's a lot to talk about, but first things first, Saturday, we talked about this before, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to your brother, obviously, DJ Fold, Eric Moser,
absolutely,
and Joe Clements for hopping on. Great chats as a usual, like we have here on the show and whatnot, and also claps out to you, Voldy, for this bad boy. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we're swagged out, especially the hat
Yes, sir.
as well. So we're repping the Granite City Lumberjacks and MinneZona Sports Live. But Voldy, we have another thing to talk about here. Pick 'em. It's
right.
It's that week, isn't it? It's that week.
Yeah.
We got to do something. I mean, shoot, what are the zoners going to win this week if they do the pick 'em? What do we got?
So I know we've been talking a lot about with our new hats that we've got in here recently, but we're going to do another one of one here that we are going to be giving away. This guy right here. Pick this bad boy up. Obviously added the MZ for MinneZona right there. Snapback hat as well there. this is another one of one. Get those picks in. You're going to win this bad boy if you are the winner for picks here this coming week.
You got to get it done, and you can win something.
Gotta do it.
That's how it works here on MinneZona Sports Live. Get those picks in, and we will check leaderboards here. And at the end of the show, obviously, you can look on the CBS Sports app. Thank you to CBS Sports for the pick'em. And tonight, Tater Tot Hot Take. We got those Vikings. Can they take me higher? Let's go. Creed, and yeah, I know it was terrible. It's okay though.
Could be better.
We'll talk a little bit about that, and former Viking. Well, actually, not even a former Viking anymore. Coming back to the purple. We got talking about that. We got to talk about the Wolves. I know basketball's not big with you, Voldy, but this I feel needs to be talked about. The Wolves are 8-2. Claps out to the Wolves. They're really playing well. Last night there was a fight. Draymond Green was choking Rudy Gobert. We'll get to that. And the Wolves' hot start. And then tonight, Voldy's Virtues. Is it the end of Belichick? Talk more about that later. But, and then tonight, ARA, the Wild make some trades. Obviously, the Patriots are 2-8. Hard to believe that. The Jets having trouble with QBs, never heard of that. Rodgers to return by Thanksgiving, and Jimbofisher out, but he's still making the moolah. We'll talk about that for ARA, and of course, Shield shoutouts as well. So, Voldy, I say we just get right into it. Let's get it going with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take tonight. Voldy, those Minnesota Vikings. Wow. Beating them Aints 27-19. It was great. Josh Dobbs was phenomenal. He was slinging it. He was running it in, too. I mean, he was doing everything in that first half. Second half, things weren't great, but still a win's a win. Defense stepped up when they needed to. But Voldy, before we get into anything, I feel like on this show, it would be a crime. It would be a crime if we did not mention this. Voldy, there was a injury to Derek Carr, and someone came in. I think we all know who that was. Infamous Jameis. Infamous Jameis makes an appearance.
He did.
He throws 2 touchdown passes, but guess what, Voldy? He throws 2 interceptions. That's what you get. That's what you get.
Big fat L right there.
Remember when some fans were like, hey, guys, go out and get Jameis Winston. He'll be great for you. That's the reason why the Vikings did not get infamous Jameis. So do not tell me that they should have gotten infamous Jameis. There was your point right there. Especially that the second touchdown or whatever. I think it was the second touchdown that he threw. I mean, Byron Murphy should have just picked it. He should have picked it. So there's that to go with it as well. But a big win. The Vikings Sunday night game versus the Denver Broncos coming up here. Voldy, let me ask you this, and the Zoners as well. You have that huge first half against a very good New Orleans Saints defense. And I hate to say it, but it's true. They're good.
Yeah.
Now you go to Denver, and Denver's upset the Bills. They've upset the Chiefs. They beat, Packers aren't good, so there's that. But they've won 3 in a row. Both teams, the Vikings winning 5 in a row and whatnot, and it's against the anti-Vike Sean freaking Payton, and I want this one. I want them to demolish them. So, Voldy, what are you looking for coming up here, going against Denver? What do you got? And the Zoners I ask of, too. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting matchup as well because, I mean, the Vikings this season haven't really faced a truly mobile quarterback, and especially one that's gotten a real resurgence as of late with Russell Wilson. he's a player that's always gotten under the Vikings skin one way or another, when it was in Seattle, and obviously now that he's in Denver too, does still bring that same little swagger that he has, and he's rediscovered his play here as of late, which is very unfortunate because he thought they just suck for all year, and definitely just hopefully send Sean Payton back into retirement as well as a head coach. But it's looking like this will be one of those where the Vikings are going to have to find a way to hold Russell Wilson in the pocket a little bit and force him to throw the ball down the field too. And of course, the defensive backfield is definitely going to have to, play a lot stronger than they did in the second half of that contest against New Orleans too. Going to be a similar matchup the way the second half of the game went with Jameis Winston in at quarterback against this Viking defense, but maybe a little bit more playmaking ability and not a guy that's going to turn over the ball as much as you would think from Jameis Winston going to Russell Wilson. I think it's one of those where the defense is going to have to play it very strong, and that offense will definitely have to get out fast and get going quickly like they did against New Orleans last week.
Well, another thing that I feel like needs to be brought up too is there's a good number of players that are probably coming back here for this game. JJ, KJ, Nick Mullins, maybe and they might have three, and Jaron Hall, they might have three quarterbacks at one time. First time in a while we can say that. But so now that they're kind of getting those guys back, Alexander Madison, I'm not sure. I don't think I looked at the injury report. I think it's tomorrow, but he had a concussion. Now you have the backfield of Ty Chandler, who played really well. Very impressed by the way he played. He almost had 2 touchdowns, obviously, with the Brian O'Neill bear hug that he had on the touchdown that got called back. But Ty Chandler, Kene Nwangwu, having him back helps just to see where the running game is. And, Dobbs had his scrambles, which was great. But we also know that, Vance Joseph, he's a fairly good defensive coordinator. And, again, the Broncos, ever since that game against the Dolphins, they gave up 70. They've actually started to figure some things out. I mean, if you're only holding the Chiefs to, 9 points or something like that, well, they're doing something right. So that you have to factor in. But also, JJ, I feel like the deciding factor is if JJ's healthy and he's good to go Sunday night, get ready for a show. And that's really all I can say. Because I feel like Dobbs is going to, show, hey, I can win the games without, Justin Jefferson and whatnot. But just watch me when I have the one Justin Jefferson with me. And not only that, hopefully TJ Hawkinson stays healthy. He's dealing with a rib injury. He fought like hell last Sunday to, be in the game, and he did a great job. Jordan Addison, I mentioned before. So it'll be interesting to see how things manifest there in Denver. But offensively, Voldy, you mentioned about Wilson. He's definitely played better. But I also know, too, that Flores' defense is pretty doggone good, too. So I'm going to say that the Vikings are going to turn over the Broncos at least 2 times. 3 max. They're going to turn them over at least twice, 3 max, because the Vikings have had a turnover in literally every game in their winning streak. So I'm feeling pretty good about the chances there. But the Vikings had some, I feel like there's a lot of injuries, but Jordan Hicks had a shin injury, and he went back into the game. He came out of the game, and apparently this was a very serious injury. Like, if he didn't get the medical attention when he did, he could have lost a limb. He could have lost his leg, So, unfortunately, he gets put on the injured list. But, Voldy, guess who comes back? Anthony Barr. Welcome back to the
sir.
Anthony Barr is going to be wearing 54, Eric Kendrick's old number, which is kind of weird. But there is Andre Carter II is wearing 55 right now.
I don't care. Give it back.
So, yeah.
I don't
Switch,
care.
just go beat 54 there, Andre.
Exactly.
Get it rolling. So Anthony Barr coming in. Obviously, I think, and the zoners can help me out here, or someone else could too. Is he going to... I assume he's going to be playing inside linebacker with Ivan Pace Jr. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I don't think he'd be an edge rusher at that point, but I don't know, depending on the scheme and whatnot. But Voldy, zoners, your thoughts on Anthony Barr signing to the... Well, he is on the practice squad right now. They want to see where he's at physically. So what are your thoughts on the Vikings going out and getting one Anthony Barr?
Well, it helps that you have a guy coming in that's at least familiar with the franchise. Obviously, a little bit of changeover since his last time that he was in purple for the Vikings, too. But I think really it's going to be at least a little bit of an added boost. You know, obviously a veteran coming in, familiar with much of the defense that has been around for a number of years. Some of the guys that he was playing with a number of years ago were younger players as well, except for, Harrison Smith and what have you. But I mean, that's going to be, it's good. Yeah, and Daniil as well, too. Maybe DJ Wanham. He was a pretty young guy when Barr was still on the team. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a calming presence. Not saying that Jordan Hicks wasn't, but having him as a replacement, if he does get elevated and is healthy as well, to at least give it a go on Sunday. I think it's going to be a much more calming presence if he can still, get after it like he was, 5-6 years ago when he was in his prime.
Right, and I feel like with Flores' defense, I feel like it's going to be, obviously there might be a learning curve, but I also know that Pace is going to be, there too, and he's been kind of, learning and whatnot. But, hopefully a speedy recovery for Jordan Hicks, because he was playing lights out. So, claps up for speedy recovery. But yeah, I like it. I think Anthony Barr is, I don't know if he's going to... I feel like he'll make somewhat of an impact. He's pretty good at blitzing, as we've all, seen in the past with Zim and whatnot. But I think Flores is going to find ways to get him involved. And obviously, I still think he's got a good chunk in the tank there. And he's happy to be back. I think he posted on his Instagram, being back with Harry, being back with Daniil, and you mentioned Wanham, too. Hey, let's go. Let's see what becomes of it, and welcome back Anthony Barr. So I'm glad he's back. That's great. He played for the Cowboys before, and he was looking for a team. And hey, come on home. All right, Skol, and let's get that dub against the stupid Sean Payton on Sunday. There's some interesting developments with our Timberwolves team. First of all, let's start out with the good, okay? The Timberwolves are 8-2. They've been on a hell of a win streak, and they have had outstanding play from one Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley, Cat even. He's been playing a little bit better, even though he's kind of been the weak link at some points. Rudy Gobert, they're starting to play as a cohesive unit. And this is something that we can commend. And obviously, I feel like once we get Zappa, once we get Munson here on the show, they can kind of shed some light on what they're doing that's different from last season and whatnot. So hopefully we get those guys on soon. But the Wolves on a pretty big win streak. Can they keep it up? Sure they can. I mean, they got the guys too. The question is, can they just don't have a collapse? I mean, as long as they don't have a collapse, they'll be all right. So let's talk about last night. So the Wolves beat the Warriors the previous night, right? Curry wasn't he was hobbling a little bit. The Wolves won 116-110. And this next game, all of a sudden, Jade McDaniels and Klay Thompson get into it. Apparently, Klay Thompson grabbed McDaniels, and so as they're going down the court, they're kind of, wrestling per se. And Gobert was going in there to get Thompson off of McDaniels. But who other than Draymond Green coming in there and putting Gobert in a headlock and just like, he's putting him in a headlock, saying, getting into this, and he needs, he gets suspended. Yeah, was it 12 games? I think it should be more. He is a repeat offender with this stuff. Oh, wait, I think I literally just got an update.
Yeah, literally wow. As you're saying.
I thought for some reason somebody told me 12. But no, he only
5.
gets 5. He only gets 5. Just, how does he only get 5? He is a repeat offender. I used to be, you know what? No one really talks about Draymond Green. He's done a great job with the Warriors.
He's a dirty player.
He's a dirty player. And the fact that they put him 5 games is ridiculous to me. Only 5 games. He is a repeat offender. You need to go a little bit. You got to get at least 20. I feel like 20 is a good thing. 5 is a little bit ridiculous in my humble opinion. But Voldy last night, absolutely unnecessary. Obviously, if we're doing absurd or approved, it'd be absurd that he's only getting 5 games. And he better be the only one that's getting suspended. He better be the only one that's getting suspended.
So far, it looks like it.
So, Voldy, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? I asked this of the zoners as well. What do you got?
You know how we always bring up, like, so-and-so is a poor man's this? Well, Draymond Green is a rich man's Dennis Rodman. All these issues he's got going on and just literally just finding ways to get under guys' skin and try to do all the dirty work, obviously, and then ultimately get socked in the face or sock someone in the face. That's what we're looking at here with this version of Draymond Green, too. It's just completely ridiculous. And I also want to bring up the fact that last night, he had Gobert in a headlock for 10, 15 seconds, and then literally nobody from the Timberwolves did anything about it. Like, they're just letting him drag him 3/4 the length of the court. Cat wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards wasn't doing anything. Look, if that's my teammate a headlock, I am knocking Draymond Green the F out. Like, not even with any remorse. I'm taking 3-4 good whacks at him before somebody at Golden State even lays a hand on me, because I'm putting that guy out of his misery. I'm doing the league a favor. If I'm banned from the NBA, so be it. I can live with it, just because of the fact that a guy like that, you value as a teammate. And even Pat Bev brought it up too, the lack of response there from the Timberwolves too, and just saying that not doing anything is already set them up for basically saying like, hey, nobody likes Gobert. They're just going to let Draymond choke him out. That's a huge message within itself. And I'm Gobert too. I'm pissed at my teammates. Like, literally nobody even thought for a second to like choke him back, knock him out, take, snatch his chain, whatever they do these days as well. It's completely ridiculous. And for Draymond, only 5 games to literally put a dude in a headlock and maybe even choke him out a little bit too. It's ridiculous. The guy should at least gotten at least a minimum 10, I think. And then, of course, the appeal process would bring it out. Then you bring it down to like 5 or 6 at least, maybe even 7 at the most. I think it was a lack of response from the Timberwolves that speaks volumes compared to the fact that it's only a 5-game suspension for Draymond for his actions.
Well, let me add one thing too, because when he was in the headlock, I think Cat eventually did go over there to try and get Draymond off of him.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hey, stop. That's not nice. Like, literally, put a forearm, get an elbow, gouge an eye, give him the old dick twist, something to be like, hey, get off my goddamn teammate, you animal. Something. So, show me that you care. That's the one thing the Timberwolves are missing. Show me that you care. Even if you don't like the guy, that's still an opponent that's, literally trying to pop your teammate's head off like it's a bottle of champagne. It's like, show me that you care, even though you hate the guy. Literally have some pride. The lack of pride is bugging me.
Well, let me add this though. There's really not, and I'm not trying to defend the Wolves here, but there's really not a guy that's an enforcer that will go out there and knock the crap out of it, and they should. No. I mean, they don't have like a guy like Pat. I mean, Pat Bev would have probably just beat the crap out of Draymond there, but I just think that Draymond obviously did not want to play in that game. And he didn't want to do it without, I mean, he's like, well, Steph's not playing, so I'm not. That's ridiculous. And there's been a lot of talk that he did that on purpose and wouldn't surprise me and whatnot. But the fact that he's only getting 5 games just because he doesn't want to play, and especially, kind of what message that sends. I mean, he has a highlight tape. I mean, not even a highlight tape. A low-light tape of him doing all this nonsense, kicking people in the groin. I mean, stepping on guys, punching guys in the face, for goodness sake. And oh no, we'll give him 5 games. It's bad for the league to do that. No, you got to make a statement, and they did not make a statement with Draymond Green. Just saying. Easy says, I think Shaq should go play and put Green in his place, LOL. Well, let's just say that Draymond would be knocked the F out, like you just said, Voldy, with Draymond Green. But
even with Charles Barkley, too. Charles would knock the hell out of somebody. Even today, Charles doesn't play around anymore. He just literally does not care.
Yeah, I wish he would. I wish somebody would just kind of go after him. But, Voldy, here's an interesting thing, though. The Wolves beat them twice, right? I mean, you beat the, they're not the starters in there, and, X, Y, and Z. Whatever. I don't give an F. But they're not the same. And they're not that championship caliber team that we're accustomed to seeing, and I feel like the dynasty is, I'm going to say it. It's done. The dynasty's done with the Golden State Warriors. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of these teams, I mean, the Wolves play the Suns tonight. They're a very good team. You have Durant, Booker, Beal is out, just got an update on that. But, I mean, there are plenty of teams that I think are better than the Warriors. They'll probably go to the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to win the whole thing.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Gobert, I appreciate what Gobert went and did. Don't get me wrong, going out to, help his teammate and whatnot. But, the lack of the effort for teammates to get Draymond off of Gobert, I mean, is concerning. But I also know, too, that putting somebody in a chokehold just because Draymond thought he was putting Clay in a chokehold, but he was going over his, over his back. And if you're going for a chokehold, you're going up to the neck. He wasn't close to the neck. It's just Draymond didn't want to play. And they didn't have an answer for the Wolves. They didn't have an answer for one Anthony Edwards. He's killing them. I mean, people are comparing Edwards right now. There's a scout or something like that. I'm not saying this, but they're saying that he could be Jordan. I mean, for goodness sake, if that's the case, when's the parade? When's the parade? So, but the Wolves are playing really well. We're going to keep an eye on everything with the Wolves, and obviously it's completely absurd that Draymond Green wasn't suspended more games, only a 5. Here, slap on the wrist. No.
Yep.
Bad Draymond. So,
he's a protected repeat offender. Him being in the league and being in the games, obviously,
way to put it. Yeah.
Is good for the NBA. It's complete trash, but at the same time, nobody's above the law. I'm just saying. I think Adam Silver in that punishment committee, or whoever is dishing out the suspensions or whatever, needs to take a serious look and be like, hey, we need to set the tone. Nobody is protected. Nobody is perfect. You violate and you will do the time.
Yep. So it's just how life is. Everyone hates Minnesota sports. So that's just how things are.
Pretty much. If the Cy Young voting didn't explain that, or the Gold Glove Awards, it didn't explain that either. Literally not a single Minnesota Twin coming out with any sort of awards here. And it's completely ridiculous that no love whatsoever. No love.
Well, someone who's respected and, a Super Bowl champion, well, their team's now 2-8. They look terrible. Voldy's virtues tonight. Voldy is going to entertain the idea of, is it the end of Bill Belichick? Question mark. They played in, no, not London, Frankfurt, Germany,
Germany.
and got I mean, they were awful.
Ugly.
The Colts were
Ugly.
bad, but they were worse. they were terrible. So Voldy, I think it's good to go to the Temple of Wisdom tonight. You kind of air out what your thoughts on this whole situation is. So let's just get it going, and let's head to the Temple of Wisdom.
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's virtues.
All right, it is time for Voldy's virtues. We are in the Temple of Wisdom. We are ready to go. So, Voldy, enlighten us with your knowledge.
So we currently sit at here with this season, obviously with alluding to it. The New England Patriots this past week played in Frankfurt, Germany, and suffered a cataclysmic, horrific, terrible 10-6 loss at the hands of the Indianapolis Colts, thus bringing their season record to 2-8 on the season. Looking at that contest overall, Patriots had their chances as well. The Colts had their troubles offensively. The Patriots couldn't respond. Quarterback play as inconsistent as it can be. Benching Mac Jones with an interception and a chance to even go and possibly even try to win the game late. The Patriots were unable to do it with Bailey Zappi at quarterback, and thus throwing an interception when there was a chance to even think about setting up for a late score in that contest. Now sitting at 2-8 on the season, the New England Patriots are in a situation that they haven't been in some time since the pre-Tom Brady era. That's over 25 years ago that this has last happened with their 2-8 record. Some of the issues that do present within themselves currently standing with the team do include obviously that inconsistent play at the quarterback position, thus leading to the sitting and benching of Mac Jones, who could quite possibly be the third string quarterback and not even dressed Sunday, with, of course, Bailey Zappi and even Will Grier most likely getting the quarterback nods here for this week. And in recent years, it has been a revolving door at the skill player position, and offensive coordinators go along with it as well, with wide receivers, running backs turning over left and right and everywhere in between. They just cannot build a consistent enough play to warrant even any sort of success on offense. There has been a lot of positives, not been a lot of positives, I should say, to throw out with the awesome offensive play ability since pretty much Super Bowl 53, and that was even a stretch as well for that time in recent years. The defense has been relied upon in recent years. Defense has had their moments, but individual to players, Matthew Judon, of course, with Stephon Gilmore a number of years ago, J.C. Jackson when he had so many interceptions in one season, have had their moments. But unfortunately, solid seasons from individuals do not translate to the defense playing out, of course, to a standard of an NFL power with their defense as well. And the players that have been signed by teams in recent years with free agent moves or even being drafted by the Patriots have not panned out to a number of things. Of course, we've seen in recent years the Patriots using a first-round pick for a Division II safety in Kyle Duggar that really hasn't turned out. Kyle Winovich as well, Chase Winovich, I should say, a linebacker out of Michigan, even up and went and retired from the NFL after 4 seasons, and 2 of which he didn't even play in recent years after his time with the Patriots as well. And just these reaches that they've gotten from the offensive line. Free agents, they had Jonnu Smith, who didn't do anything. He's having career resurgence down in Atlanta in recent years. But with all these moves that have been made in recent years, there's one consistent factor that comes down to the inconsistency on both sides of the ball, whether it be on the field or in the front office. That's Bill Belichick, of all people. In this day and age, of course, you do have the unlimited number of information and analytics to help make your team better. Well, Bill Belichick still remains of the old school, know it when you see it mentality of scouting and coaching players as well. Of course, having that information is handy, but at the end of the day, he's still the one that makes the decisions when it comes to signing guys, making moves, and obviously bringing players to this 53-man roster and the practice squad as well. When, of course, the teams do have a separate head coach and GM, Belichick remains as the only coach and GM in the current standard of the NFL that there is. Now, we are quite possibly looking at an end of an era in coaching and the greatest dynasty in all of football, quite possibly in sports, with Bill Belichick now sitting at 300 wins in his NFL coaching tenure. But there does come a time when you need to lead a horse to water, and it's up to whether the horse wants to drown themselves or they can drink by themselves. Let's certainly hope that Belichick doesn't drown himself and thus the whole franchise of the New England Patriots. Right now, their head's just barely above water, sitting at 2-8. We have to start thinking and looking about at a future here for the Patriots and maybe make a move to push this proud franchise in a new direction. So what does that mean? That starts off with looking at a new head coach and possibly a GM to go along with it as well. Now, for the sake of the program here tonight and Voldy's virtues, and of course for the sake of camera quality here tonight, we're just going to start looking at potential coaching candidates for the New England Patriots. And I only have two, the two that would be a perfect fit for many reasons as well. I'm sure there are going to be a number that do come out here in recent years, but a lot that do continue to be looked at here with, of course, this possible coaching situation, if there is something to come out of it, with the likes of the New England Patriots. Starting off with the first potential candidate, a one that has been named in recent weeks, well, unfortunately for his tenure ending with another team this season prematurely. That does include Josh McDaniels. Of course, he was the heir apparent in New England with his number of years as offensive coordinator for the Patriots. Of course, it was going to be Josh Daniels' team to take over for the team, or that is what it felt like when he was offensive coordinator for the Patriots, coming back for a second go-around and thus winning a few more Super Bowls with Tom Brady and the boys. Now, switching that team for what seemed to be the longest sense of being a defensive-driven team of number of years as well, because we've seen over the years, with whether it was Brady performing at a high level or not, the Patriots still had a pretty good darn defense in many respects as well. But switching that mindset of having a defensive first team to offensive first squad could inject a new life into the franchise with an offensive scheme and mind that is in Josh McDaniels. Sure, the past coaching tenures of McDaniels in Denver, and of course most recently with the Vegas Raiders, that, well, he certainly did leave town with his tail between his legs, has been rocky to say the least. That should not take away from, of course, McDaniels' pedigree as to direct an offense and what could be better team to do with that than with the team that gave him his first shot of injecting a new life, that being with the New England Patriots and Josh McDaniels as the head coach for the Patriots. Now, another candidate that certainly does draw a lot of attention, but a lot of factors have to go into how this season turns out, is going to be Mike Vrabel, the longtime Patriots linebacker, as well as, for lack of a better term, an old school hard ass as well in the landscape of football. Now, we do know that Mike Vrabel and his time with the Patriots was also pretty awesome. Great linebacker and a first sure Super Bowl touchdown receiver as well. Every Super Bowl he played in, he caught a touchdown one way or another. This matchup of being a hard-nosed player transitioning into a hard-nosed coach would certainly be an all too but perfect marriage for both sides, for the Patriots and for Vrabel as well. This season alone, he was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame, so that certainly does mend a few fences when it comes to the front office and, of course, the franchise and Mike Vrabel. Now, we do have to see how this season does turn out with the Titans and their somewhat rebuilding phase as they're currently in, but it certainly does look like if the team doesn't make the playoffs for Mike Vrabel and Tennessee, that there could be more strife with Vrabel as head coach down in Music City. Now, bringing Vrabel in as a head coach for the New England Patriots would, of course, obviously bring back the nostalgia of him being a coach and the original dynasty for the Patriots as well for a number of years, but sorely is needed to make that transition of being a hard-nosed defensive first team in an AFC East division that is a high-flying one and certainly could be a very tough battle for years to come, with obviously the Bills, the Dolphins, and you throw in the Jets as well in recent years. There's still a lot of football. There's still a lot of football to be played here this season, but the Patriots do know that there is certainly one thing. If they do finish below 500, which could quite possibly be the worst, if not the worst in the league, I will say that Bill Belichick will either retire as head coach or be removed as head coach. A replacement would definitely be an extremely difficult decision to find. Sometimes enough is enough, and change can be good for a franchise as well. Well, let's hope that if there is any change to come, that there would be a gracious situation and a gracious separation between franchise and coach, and much fallout will not come out of it as well. But I'm sure with the Patriots organization and the rumored allegedness of actions over the years as well, that not everybody's got a gun pointed to each other. And if it's one of those, if I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me as well. Let's hope that it doesn't go that way. But I'm of the mindset right now, sitting at 2-8, it doesn't look very good. And I feel that a change is needed for this New England Patriots franchise.
Let me add something that I think is interesting. Mike Zimmer. The Vikings go and, get Mike Zimmer, kind of the hard-nosed defense and running the ball and all that stuff. While Belichick kind of had that, and, there's some similarities. I'm not saying all. I mean, there's definitely some differences, but
right.
I feel like this is kind of that situation where Zimmer, towards the end of his tenure, was more of kind of like, well, this is the way we do it. That's how we got success, and I don't have a bad defense. Well, times change. And that's not a knock against Zimmer, but at the same time, some things don't work anymore. And this is a different league now. And I feel like some people don't necessarily want to adapt. And granted, Belichick has done everything in his power to try and bring that magic back of the Patriots aura, bringing Bill O'Brien back and everything like that. But he's got to be salivating that McDaniels is now on the market. So there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of similarities to Zimmer's time in the end. Granted, Belichick's got the Super Bowls and everything like that. But, I think Bill really loves it. Don't get me wrong. He really loves being the head coach of the, New England Patriots. But you know what? I think the game has passed by him. And I think you need a revamp of this team. And Mac Jones, sorry, but if you saw what he did that Sunday, yikes! I mean, we'll talk about it more in a bit. But Voldy, I agree with you. I think that's what it's going to come down to, because I feel like the Patriots are like, we don't want to fire him because it's like he's kind of the guy, right? He's been that guy. So I think I feel like Kraft is going to sit down with him and his other, higher ups and whatnot and say, listen, here's a really nice retirement package. Here's, X, Y, and Z, just go ahead. You've earned it. And he has. He absolutely has. And I feel like that's what they're going to do too. So got my stamp of approval. Zoners, let us know what you think too. I think Voldy is on the right track, and especially, changes got to be made. Easy says, interesting things, Voldy. Going to be a hard pill to swallow if it does come. Yeah, it will be. And, we can have this debate at a different time, but a lot of people are saying Brady was more, the reason why they won those Super Bowls than Belichick. I mean, they're going to have...
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa, exactly. Yeah. So that will be interesting to me of how that all is going to work from that. So we'll keep an eye on it. So you guys let us know in the chat as well. All right, great job. Voldy's Virtues this week. ARA got some wild. They add another player to the team, which helps. And obviously, we're going to get back to this Patriots talk, especially of the current state of things. Yikes.
Yep.
And the Jets having trouble with QBs. Never heard of that. Rodgers returning by Thanksgiving. We'll see. Jimbofisher fired and still getting paid. That's what we got for ARA. Let's get it going with some observed or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, taking a look, of course, with the state of the Minnesota Wild that we are currently under as well. The Wild making a couple of moves here in recent weeks as well. Of course, last week they did add Stanley Cup winning defenseman Zach Bogosian to the squad as well. Just trading a 7th-round pick in 2025 to a defense and a middle, of course, defense group that could use a little bit more of experience and even with physicality to the group. The 16-year veteran Bogosian does join the Minnesota Wild and has already made himself quite comfy in a Wild sweater with the likes of the mix that they do have with Jonas Brodin, Brock Faber, Jacob Middleton too. Does bring in, of course, a number of games and, of course, that experience that he does have with Bogosian too. So it does bring up with the Minnesota Wild and how they have played in recent weeks as well. Do you think it's absurd or approved the Wild adding Zach Bogosian could give this team much needed help at the defensive blue line?
Well, I know they've been dealing with a little bit of injuries, and apparently from my sources, there's a lot of, what's the best word to describe it? There's just a lot of guys not, playing like they should, up to the level that we're accustomed to seeing them play at. And I feel like, if that's the case and guys aren't doing what, we're expecting them to do, Bill Guerin's going to make the trade. He's going to bring in guys that they want to play well and things like that, add some depth and whatnot. So, I think it gives them help. The question is, don't get on that downward trend. There's been a lot of finger pointing and there's been a lot of talk on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen a lot of this, but there's, Kaprizov's not playing that well. Apparently, this is according to Twitter now. No, don't come after me. Oh, what are you talking about? He's doing just fine. I'm sure he is, but this is what people are saying. And this is what, Russo's been saying too. Michael Russo saying like, Krill needs to, needs to play better and things like that. And, what's the question there? So I'm going to give it my stamp of approval. And the reason why I do that is because something's got to get going here, because this team's supposed to be a playoff team, right? And they're supposed to get out of the first round. We've been waiting here for X amount of years. Let's go here. So it's time for the Wild to start, playing a little bit better here, because, Bill's going to ship you off if you don't do anything, if you're not playing up to expectations. So, stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you got?
I definitely see it as an interesting acquisition because, of course, the Wild did also trade away 23-year-old Kalen Addison from their defensive group and off to San Jose. So then you lose a young defenseman and you bring in a much more experienced in 10 years, the senior from Addison to Bogosian as well. Certainly does make things interesting. The Wild did also get back captain Jared Spurgeon as well off the long-term IR last week. So that's also a nice little added addition to the defensive group too. So does bring in obviously a lot more stability at the blue line. You get a big body, a guy that's not afraid to play the physical side as well with Bogosian too. I just wonder, the last season or so with him down in Tampa, it seemed that he either lost a step or was just not fully invested into the game too. So hopefully a fresh start here in Minnesota will either revamp his career a little bit in these waning years that he does have left, or it could just be another boneheaded decision by Billy G now into year 5 that we're looking to get even into the playoffs, let alone past the first round. Or we just continue to even think about, are we even in a much worse situation than we were a year ago? So, to me, right now, jury's kind of out, but I'll give it my stamp of approval.
We can just kind of give it and see where it takes us. But, let's get things going. All right, next one, Voldy.
So we did talk about it, of course, with Voldy's virtues here this week, and we still need to talk about the New England Patriots even a little bit more. A decidedly horrible loss at the hands of the New England Patriots this week in Germany by the score of 10-6. Mac Jones got benched early in the fourth quarter, and then ultimately Bailey Zappi decided to take things in his own hands and ended up throwing a game-stealing interception when the Patriots were driving to eventually try and take a game-winning score. But it was not for the faint of heart, and even decisions made throughout that contest come back to one guy only, that being Bill Belichick. Inconsistent play at the quarterback spot and just bad overall play, too, even with 2 wins on the season. 2 wins out of 10 ain't exactly something to be proud of as well, especially in the National Football League. You look at how things have already gone here, of course, that he's been benched already, pulled out of games, that being Mac Jones against the Cowboys, against the Saints, and now we're looking at him not even quite possibly dressing coming up on Sunday. That would be yet still to be determined, even though things are looking in that direction. But coming back to the point here, of course, with Bill Belichick, we did kind of talk about quite possibly at the end of the season, he won't be head coach. But do you think even with the play overall of the Patriots here as of late, do you think it's absurd or approved Bill Belichick will remain head coach by the end of the season for the New England Patriots?
Yeah, yes. And the reason why I say that is because Kraft doesn't have the cojones to do it right now. And granted, if you think about the New England Patriots, you're setting. I mean, I'm not saying this is what they're doing. I mean, you're gonna get a good draft pick, so it's they fall to 2-8. They'll win a couple more games. The question is, when is that going to happen? Because if you, obviously everyone, or I assume some people saw the game and thought, especially with that interception Jones had, I don't know if you saw that, but that was completely just, he almost underthrew the defender. That's how bad it was. And I'm sorry to Caitlin about Mac Jones, but it's true. He's been playing like dog crap. And, what are they going to do? Not a clue. That's the one thing that I can really say is, they're just going to have to write it out. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to think, okay, just write it out. We're going to find, if Belichick retires or they move on from him or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is coming down to, draft position at some point here. So, stamp of approval, he'll remain head coach, but, I think this is the last year. You got to think this is the last year with Belichick. It just doesn't make sense to me why it wouldn't be, because what else do you have to prove? And I keep saying that, What else, excuse me, do you have to prove? So, stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you got?
You would just like to think that it would be a much better send-off for Bill Belichick than quite possibly how this season is going to be drawn out. But as the way things continue to shape up, overall, I just don't see this ending well for the tenure of Bill Belichick in New England. And at the end, I feel like they will make it through the rest of the season. I just don't see how it's going to be good. And obviously with it being a 2-8 record right now, I mean, it's going to be a fight to even get to 5 wins, I think, overall, let alone getting back to 500, I think. 5, even 6 wins. They're really going to have to bite and scrimp here for a lot of contests down the stretch here. I don't see it going well here, and I think it's going to be one of those that all parties are going to have to say that they move on, even though it's like, yeah, we're not bringing you back. We're just going to have to start fresh here. I think he will remain. It's got my stamp of approval that he will remain head coach throughout the rest of this season.
Bang. So, we got that going for us. We'll see as the weeks go on. All right. We're staying in the division. Voldy, next one.
Well, staying in the AFC East, now making it 11 straight quarters that the New York Jets, much like this camera quality, have not come through with offense. The New York Jets have gone without an offensive touchdown, and they're still not blaming the play of quarterback Zach Wilson. Coach Robert Saleh said that Zach Wilson's been, quote, playing actually pretty good as of late, considering the fact that they are, well, underperforming in many different facets, yet still competing in a very tough AFC East, even with the likes of Buffalo shooting themselves in the foot. Losers of 2 in a row, sitting at 4-5. Believe it or not, 4 or 5 still holding on pretty strong, even though they took a hard one in a loss against the Las Vegas Raiders in a 16-12 loss, but still have yet to score as many points as they had penalties at one point, where they have 17 penalties in those 2 past games compared to just 18 points overall. Now, Zach Wilson hasn't been, obviously the scapegoat in a lot of different areas. He's been competing as well. Had 263 passing yards, 54 rushing yards as well, and even had a chance to win it right at the end there with a Hail Mary as a last-second heave there to even get it close for a touchdown as well. But again, still 2 straight losses, haven't been wins. Still people pointing fingers of like, why is Zach Wilson still starting compared to a guy that you signed and traded for, including the likes of Trevor Siemian, who has been a Jet before and familiar with the at least familiar with the franchise more than Zach Wilson in recent years. But looking at the current situation with the offensive play for the New York Jets, you think it's absurd or proof? Should the Jets take more into consideration, quite possibly changing quarterbacks here coming up here for this game coming up this Sunday?
So Simeon's the backup? Is that?
I believe he is, yes, because it's not
Mike White.
It's not
right?
Mike White anymore. He's down in Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
I think Tim Boyle might be the backup
Yes,
quarterback.
that's right.
as well.
Yep. I think that's right.
Yes. Yeah. So Tim Boyle's the backup. Simeon is actually on the
Okay.
practice squad right now, so he's the third guy basically.
Okay. Well, man, I don't think necessarily it's the quarterback per se. Yeah, he did throw a costly interception Sunday night against the Raiders. So, I mean, you can factor that in. I get that. But also, who are you going to go with? I mean, you're going to go with Boyle. I mean, what's he going to do?
Ew.
He's not going to do too much. Let me say this. I feel like they were supposed to have this stellar running game with Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin's barely even used. And he's complained to the Jets about, hey, like, if you're not going to involve me, I want to be traded. And it shows. I mean, good Lord, they haven't done anything with Dalvin. And it's sad because it's like, gosh, I mean, utilize him. He's, he can get you those yards, those much-needed yards. Breece Hall's got, obviously very good as well. I also know that these receivers got to step up too. I mean, Garrett Wilson was supposed to be this high-profile wide receiver with Rodgers and X, Y, and Z, but like, I mean, they got to get open too. Their O-line isn't that good either. So, I'm gonna say absurd. Should the Jets take consideration of changing QBs? No, I think it's absurd. I don't think they should. And Wilson is trying. I mean, compare Zach Wilson to what he did last year and how he reacted. Yes, he should have been benched and he deserved to be. But in this instance, he's actually giving a crap and he's actually trying to, make things better with this. And the Raiders are playing inspired this past game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, they beat the crap out of the crappy Giants. I mean, good Lord, they're terrible. But again, this isn't really necessarily the quarterback. I feel like it's the whole offense in general. Tyler Conklin, I think, said, our guy, Zoner favorite, Tyler Conklin, a.k.a. Gronklin, said that, they got to do better offensively. And they got to figure out a way. So this isn't just on one guy. This is the whole offense. So that's how I put it. Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, one thing I want to take into consideration too, and of course you brought up the running game. I did see that the Jets did get rid of, I believe it's Michael Carter, their backup running back. Yeah. They let him go, so now it's going to be Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook as well, which will probably be a godsend for Dalvin Cook as well to see him make some more plays. But I really think, and a great point that you brought up, of course, with Zach Wilson, it's like, obviously he is playing for his job, and the way that he's been playing, it's been inspired because he literally had no stress, no worries for about 8 plays into the start of this regular season. Then Rodgers goes down, he gets hurt, and now here we are at this point. He's playing for his job, obviously, but he's just like, all right, well, I mean, sooner or later, the wheels are going to come off. I might as well play the best that I can at this point. And I will say the way that the Jets have been contending here at 4-5, it's because of their defense. I mean, their front seven is loaded. And we haven't even talked about the prowess of Sauce Gardner as well, and Reed in the backfield as well, too, Mosley. Of course, on the defensive side. Yeah, Mosley as well as a linebacker spot. The Williams brothers and Keenan and the other guy, too. I mean, both those guys have been playing stellar. And, Keenan Williams, even for the fact that he hasn't been getting a lot of sacks, he continues just to change a game one way or another. He's even young on his NFL tenure, and he's already a game wrecker in many facets, of course, with that AFC East. I feel like with Zach Wilson at quarterback, even though he's made a couple of mistakes, he's keeping them in the fight one way or another. I mean, they lost 16-12, and the previous week as well, they didn't come out with a win, but they were in it all the way to the very end. That defense is keeping them in close. The skill position spots have been, obviously suspect because of the fact that Zach Wilson has been under pressure and not been able to get full protection to allow him to make plays down the field as well, to Garrett Wilson, to obviously Alan Lazard has showed up the last couple of weeks, the Uzama and even Conklin as well there. I mean, you give him time, he's going to help you out one way or another. And I feel like keeping him at the quarterback position is going to help out, especially as we go into these next few weeks, and quite possibly making another change that will help out with at that quarterback spot as well. But I think right now, should they take more consideration into it? I say no right now. I say it's absurd. I think they keep it steady right now. The defense is still playing good. It's just sooner or later, something's going to click with more comfortability with this offensive scheme that they have with Nathaniel Hackett as OC is going to be huge one way or another here for this group for the Jets.
I just feel like the run game has to get going for this team if they're ever going to be successful. But there's a silver lining. Next one, Voldy.
Talking about the New York Jets quarterback troubles as well. Well, quite possibly a shot in the arm, possibly with the return of one Aaron Rodgers. Improbable, inconceivable one way or another. Even after coming off an Achilles injury, of which he had surgery on not even a few days after said injury, Aaron Rodgers could quite possibly be back with the team full-time by Thanksgiving. Of course, the Jets do also play on Black Friday that coming week as well, which is already next Friday. Who did this as well to speed up the calendar that Thanksgiving is 8 days away as well?
I know.
But with that Achilles injury, he's been spotted on the field in the last couple of weeks. A few light throws off the crutches, off the boot as well. Now he's getting even more in time, in rhythm throws as well on the field with kind of warm-ups and everything. To this past week being spotted on the sideline with a headset, talking over with Zach Wilson as well, to quite possibly even being back full-time real soon. Now, are we even talking about him getting to play this season even after popping that Achilles as well and getting surgery? Has yet to be said. But with Aaron Rodgers back with the team full time after that surgery, now on the sideline much more, is it absurd to approve? Could Aaron Rodgers returning be enough for the Jets to be put back in that playoff conversation in the last few weeks of the regular season?
Well, I don't. Let me preface by saying this for next week. He's not going to be playing next week. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And like you were talking about, I have to say it. And the reason why I do say it is because they have the defense. We talked about this just before here. And they have weapons. They have Hall. They have Wilson. They have Lazard. I mean, is Randall Cobb still out there? I literally have not heard one damn thing from Randall Cobb either ever since Rodgers, tore his Achilles. But
Right.
I would put them up there because he knows it, and he's done this long enough. Now I don't know when. That's the thing. He might not. So this isn't something to where you can just hop on out there and go. I mean, you could. I mean, this is he's attacking the rehab. He's trying to get there. But you know what? It is a tough thing to do. This isn't an injury you want to mess with. So I'm not saying that it is out of the question that he comes back, but you know what? If he does, they will be back in playoff consideration. They're 4-5, like we talked about, Voldy. They're 4-5. They're not out of it by any means. If they, I think I was just doing picks not too long ago, and who do they got? Do we remember? I can't even.
Buffalo.
They
got Buffalo this week, which could be. I mean, the way the Bills have been playing this season,
exactly.
Coin flip. I think I took the Jets this week. Just say screw it. We'll see what happens.
And I don't blame you. And I was very tempted too, but I might change it. Who knows? But hey, if they win that game, more incentive for Rodgers to go in and play. So I'm gonna say stamp of approval. I think they will be if he gets back there, and God forbid for a lot of these teams. So we'll see. Voldy, what do you think?
I mean, it's certainly you can't keep them out of the conversation the way the AFC has shaped up this season.
Yes.
I mean, Houston's looked really good this year. I mean, Jacksonville's been looking better as of late. You could even throw the Colts in there too. Who would have thought of it, especially with the injury to Anthony Richardson, now Gardner Minshew leading the squad here for the Colts too. But I feel like the Jets, if they are going to be put back in this playoff conversation, obviously we talked about it with the last story, it's going to be their defense that they're going to have to rely on a lot too, because Zach Wilson, again, like we've been saying, it's 50-50. Which Zach Wilson are you going to get? Are you going to be the Zach Wilson that beat the Chiefs, or are you going to get the Zach Wilson that played last week and threw a late interception as well? Both of them not bad players. Give him time. Let him find his receivers downfield. He can make a play or two, and that's sometimes all it takes to win a game is a play or two down the stretch. But with the possibility of Rodgers coming back, it's one of those, like, if they are on the cusp of a playoff spot, it's probably because the fact that Zach Wilson has kept them in that conversation long enough to put them there. So you do want to mess up that mojo with just a few weeks left and put in, of course, and rediscover all that timing with a brand new quarterback, get him comfortable, of course, with the system that he does have with Hackett. That's been perfectly, a good marriage as of late with the skill players that got very little time, of course, during the preseason, those just handful of plays to start off this season as well. I feel like it could be more detrimental than good. So I think with him being at that quarterback spot, I think it could push them back in the conversation. It's going to be one of those we'll have to wait and see on that one. But if you had to get an answer from me on this one, I say if Rodgers does come back and is the quarterback for the Jets here in the last few weeks of the regular season, I say yes. I think they're going to be back in the playoff conversation. But by that point, is it going to be too little or too late?
It's true. So you gotta see how things shake out, because I mean the Bills aren't, maybe they're gonna play angry with the way that people are talking about them now. So we'll see. But I give them a shot, and I can't believe I'm saying it. I give the Jets a shot. I think they might. So, all right, last one, Voldy.
Well, of course, with recent play of college football and in recent seasons, too, there's been a lot of head coaches that got fired in recent weeks, one of them being most notable in Texas A&M's jimbofisher, who came in recent seasons and will now be relieved of his duties heading into the last few weeks of the regular season. Now includes, with his contract being pulled out from under him, 8 years remaining on his contract, $76 million to buy out his contract for the football coach, and more than half of a reported $146 million that Power 5 schools are paying their fired head football coaches since the start of last year's season as well. A number and a stat and just an overall quandary that confuses me still to this day of head coaches that are fired, but yet are still getting paid to not the team that they get fired from, still continues to make much more interesting conversation, even looking at the time that you look at with these head coaches. Not the only coach that got fired, Jimbo Fisher. It was Zach Arnett from Mississippi State. He got fired, and he's got $4 million still coming his way. Somebody actually broke it down. Over the next 8 years, Jimbo Fisher is going to get paid over $20,000 a day to not coach Texas A&M football. Just continues to baffle me how this all works, because if you get fired, you feel like, well, you don't actually get paid because of the fact you didn't get the job done. But in the days of guaranteed money, football contracts and everything, I guess one way or another, whether you do a good job or not, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you're still going to get money. Is it absurd or approved? Should Jimbo and other head football coaches that have been fired, especially looking at the list from the start of last season, should they even be paid because they got fired and didn't get the job done with these universities and football programs?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, that is an absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
Especially for getting fired. I feel like there should be an incentive in there, or just something in the contract or whatever they sign that says, if they don't meet up to expectations, then you get half of the salary or something like that. Just something along those lines, because this is an insane amount of money. Like you said, Scott Frost, when he was fired from Nebraska in September 2022, $15 million. I mean, Come on. You're just gonna be like, oh, you fired me, but hey, I still got the money coming in, man. This is how it is. That's ridiculous, man. I mean, that is an absurd amount of money. Like Herm Edwards, like $4.4 million. Okay, that's I don't have an issue with that. Issue I have is this whole notion that, 76 million contract buyout for Jimbo Fisher. It's just, oh my God, I don't even know how to explain it, just because that's just an absurd amount of money. But to answer the question, Voldy, I'd probably say that I want to say, oh man, this is a tough one. Like I feel like it should be half. I feel like if you're going out and, Jimbo Fisher does a crappy job and, doesn't do anything, and if it's just really poor performance, then he shouldn't. But granted that they kind of had a, season. They didn't have a great season, don't get me wrong, and he hasn't lived up to expectations either. But maybe just a little incentive, just say, okay, get the hell away from us. We're done with you.
Right.
That type of thing. But I don't know. I think it's a little absurd that they're getting paid that amount of money. Should they give them that amount of money? I don't know. I'm not at liberty to say, but if you don't do a good job, you shouldn't be being paid that much money to be fired. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Well, it's just ridiculous. Obviously, with it being an SEC school in Texas A&M, obviously those numbers are greatly inflated than any other coaching contracts that you've seen in recent years. The fact that it's going to be that Texas A&M owes Jimbo Fisher, I'm just looking here, $19.2 million within the next 60 days, and they got to pay him $7.2 million every year from now till 2031, baffles me even more as well. This is the world that we live in with college football too, and I'm sure in past years as well, turn of the century and everything. I mean, coaches probably got 2-3 year contracts and, hey, you did a good job, here's an extension, or hey, maybe we need to go in a different direction. But obviously you need to invest in a coach as well, because the quality of play, quality of recruiting classes, everything, those take time to develop and address the needs of the team that you have, from the current status of the roster to obviously turnovers with the transfer portal, early signing period, scouting, recruiting, and all that. That takes time. So
Yeah.
to have immediate success is kind of, flash in the pan, doesn't happen all that time. But with big coaches coming certain directions, obviously that does draw attention from a lot of players, and they're going to play their best right off the bat too. I just do not get the fact that you didn't get the job done. You're still going to get paid regardless.
Jeez.
I think it's a completely absurd. I don't think Jimbo Fisher should get a cent for what he did. You didn't get the job done. You were a mediocre team at best in the SEC. And, well, you should pay the piper. In fact, you should pay back the money that you took from Texas A&M, or just sever all ties, be done with it. Nobody gets any more, nobody gets any less. But Texas A&M surely isn't hurting for any money. They generated in all of 2022 $193 million alone for the athletic department as well. That's just the athletic side as well. That's how much money was generated from Texas A&M all of last year as well. I mean, it's completely crazy to think about that there's going to be coaches out there that aren't going to be doing anything for probably, 3-4 months, unless they get hired by another school, and probably won't even get paid by that new school because the team that they got fired from is paying their salary and everything and will take care of that one way or another. It's completely absurd in my mind. I don't think Jimbo Fisher should get a cent for the job that he did at Texas A&M.
Well, I don't know. Potential fraud, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know Jimbo Fisher well enough, but he wasn't ever our coach, so I don't know. But Voldy, before we wrap things up, great job with ARA as always here.
Thanks, sir.
I just did get an update on the Vikings injuries, like we were talking about before. So Alexander Madison did not practice. No surprise there with the concussion. Justin Jefferson limited.
Okay.
TJ Hawkinson limited as well, and KJ Osborne is limited. So this isn't a bad injury list, I'd say. I mean, I don't think it's that bad.
Usual suspects.
So I think, a lot of them will play, so I'm not too worried about it. But anywho, like we said, that's it for ARA, but we got some Shield shout-outs to get to tonight. We got some good ones, and, it's always a special time with Shield shout-outs. So let's just get it going. Let's some Shield shout-outs.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, it is time for some Shield shoutouts. So Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Well, of course, do have to give another big Shield shout out to the Granite City Lumberjacks this past weekend for hosting us, rolling out the red carpet, literally and figuratively as well. Of course, a couple of nice wins over the weekend certainly doesn't hurt. Another great first live show that we've done, of course, in person as well. Could not ask for a better venue, better turnout as well for all the guys that came on and for all those that tuned in. And, of course, all the fun that we had before, during, and after the show certainly didn't hurt. So big thank you to the Lumberjacks for that. Yes. And do have to give a congratulations as well to my alma mater, Byron High School. The volleyball team finished in third place in the state volleyball tournament as well. Faced an early 2-0 deficit in that third place championship match. Rallied to win the last 3 sets to win it in 5. So congratulations to the Byron volleyball team for a season finishing third place at the state tournament as well. That's going to do it for Shield shoutouts this week.
All right. And like you said, a lot going on. Thank you again to the Granite City Lumberjacks. We had a fantastic time, and especially bringing all of us together, especially the Kerf doctor, who did a phenomenal job helping us.
Oh, definitely.
Just kind of running the show, getting everything set up with the camera and things like that. We were there. Were we there at 2? We were there for 2 hours.
We were 2 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It was well worth it, and it went by quick before we started. Yep. Thank you to Jimbo especially, because he wants to have all his stuff ready out, and he let us go in with the locker room, and we were able to have a great show with it, and that was fun. So All right. With that being said, pick 'em, baby. Pick 'em.
Yes,
Pick 'em,
sir.
pick 'em, pick 'em, pick 'em. We got that going on. You could win that hat this week. And remember, get those in, right? Like, you could do this right now. I mean, just get
Do
it
it
done.
right now.
Do it right now.
Don't think about it.
You're going
Do
to
it.
win that nice hat. Obviously, you'll see better quality on the socials medias. But I will say that a lot of you have done a great job, and we will check the leaderboard, see who is winning as of right now. And to be
Winning.
honest, thank you to I think it's a Rick, if I'm not mistaken. But I just want to be sure here because it's coming up here. Give me a second.
You want to give him any credit more than he needs, so.
Yeah, true. But you know what? It's we got to do it. Standings unavailable. That's a bunch of bogus. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Hey, look, it's a Rick 101 over Jack. Jack's coming up here. Jack Vickers, he's at 100. Dylan Kilpatrick fell a little bit, but you know what? He can get back up there at 99. Tyler Hermann at 98. DJ Vold, our guy, at 97. Joe Service, 97. Molly Vold, 97. Victor, 97. And yours truly at 94. So, great job with doing the picks. And, yeah, you can win the hat. So, speaking of that, guys, we got sweatpants. We've got hats. We got stickers. I mean, just the whole slew. Check out those hats. You know the deal. $20 here. There we go. $20, $5 shipping. Hey, come on. There we go. And obviously the American flag hats, the camo hats as well. So make sure you talk to us. We will get those to you. They're fantastic. I actually love the camo a lot, as well as the American flag one. But you know the deal. Remember, sweatpants, $30, $5 shipping. We've sold a lot, actually.
We have.
So if you want some, we can definitely get you some. They're out of stock with mediums, but I know there's some mediums out there. We're going to try to get those to you. Remember, shirts, $20, $5 shipping. We still have some left. Limited edition XL t-shirt is still available. Just remember, I mean,
Someone buy it,
yes,
please.
just do it. Just
Holidays
do it.
are coming up. We've got
This is true.
stuff in the works. We need to make this happen. We need
Yeah.
to help me help you.
Help
you.
me help you. Yeah, exactly. So the stickers, you know the deal, $2 for the small ones, $3 for the big ones. Make sure you get that in there as well. Thank you to W2 Performance, Will Rattel at www.w2performance.com. He's got everything updated, and he's been keeping up to date with his social medias. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Tyler Knutson, Crown Rental for the stickers. Check out the Victorious P.O.D. with Tyler Hermann, Jack Vickers. They're doing a great job as always. TLS Performance, Troy Stoudemire Jr. Shout out to our guy doing big things. Popcorn Bucket List with Nick Dahlhoff, Ryne Myhrberg, Omni Entertainment. They're doing a fantastic job talking all movies and all that stuff. So make sure you check those guys out. And I don't understand it. At the end of the show, your video looks fantastic. I don't get it. I don't get it, man.
I don't get it either.
I'm done.
I just work here.
I
I'm done.
don't
Technology
know.
sucks.
Bro, I've been here the whole time. So, we'll just...
Bro, I've been here the whole time.
So, we'll just kind of go with that. But that's episode 171. Had a nice, fun time. Update, we will not be having a show next Wednesday. We want you guys to have... But the good news is that we want you guys to have a great Thanksgiving with your family, your friends, and whatnot. So you guys enjoy it. We will be on the socials medias. So
yes, we will.
We will have things going on there. So keep up to date with that. We might have some other stuff coming your way. So.
And if you don't have any plans next Wednesday night, feel free to flip it on over to NAHL TV. Granite City Lumberjacks will be taking on the Minnesota Loons. That'll be a 7:30 p.m. puck drop. Lumberjacks always play the night before Thanksgiving. Always a great time. There'll be lots to see. Great hockey as well. So if you don't have anything going on to next Wednesday night, feel free to watch some hockey.
Might as well. Do it. So have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you after Thanksgiving. Go Jacks.
Yes, sir.
Skull Vikes, go Wild, go Wolves, all that stuff. So, with that being said, as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla!
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.